Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo Podcast. This is your weekly dose of all things Nintendo. My name is Jemma, and joining me this week, stumbling already, I have my two very good friends. Who shall I introduce first? Welcome back, Kirk.
See, I won. Now do you feel bad, Trev?
Hey, you just gave away that I'm here.
Everyone
Yes,
knew.
thank you.
They,
Thank you, Kirk. We also
they,
have
they
Trev.
can tell by the jovial feel that has already shown up in this particular podcast. We're all
Yeah,
Might
happy
as well
when Trev's here.
bring my me into the screen early, right?
yeah,
I
no,
normally bring them in one at a time.
I do. I'll bring you in at the same time this week, maybe.
Yeah, you can have
Yes, no,
me
but
grab
obviously
him and pull him onto the screen.
that would be good. Yeah, let me see. I don't know how I can do that, but that would be fun. Anyway, thank you both very much for joining me this week. Thank you, listeners. We have another packed show full of interesting news, tidbits, and games that we're playing. So let's get straight to it because the news items, I mean, the first one ties into last week's breakdown. So last week we did a breakdown of the Nintendo Direct, which was super exciting. Trev, unfortunately, you missed that one. So love to hear your thoughts on these games that I'm about to mention because the report during the week was that some of the games mentioned during the Direct have been wishlisted and they're doing very well. So, for example, Echoes of Wisdom, which is the new Legend of Zelda game that we heard about coming out, is it September, I believe? That it is the most wishlisted game for the period of May till June kind of thing, or whatever it is, end of May to end of June, which is really exciting because we talked about this game last week and it looks really interesting and new and fresh and original and the graphics are great, in that sort of top-down cartoony style that we like. But, obviously, it's a different take on the genre, but it seems like fans are reacting quite positively. Trev, did you have any, updated thoughts on that reveal that we got last week?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm glad to see it topping the pre-order charts because it is a brand new game and it definitely
Mm,
caught me out of kind of left field, but in a good way because, of course, you guys know from past shows that not only am I a Zelda fan, I'm a big fan of the top-down style, and
yes.
I'm so glad they brought back the Link's Awakening engine
Mhm.
because that was just gorgeous and charming. And I think it's interesting to see just in short, the mechanics of this one. It seems like it's sort of blending the maybe more open creative aspects of like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom within that more traditional style.
Mm.
So I'd be interested to see how that works because we're older. We like both style of Zeldas, but for a lot of younger gamers, they've grown up with Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. They only know those open world. So to go
Mhm.
to something like like a Link's Awakening or a Skyward Sword, that seems like it could be jarring, right? Because it is more linear. So
Mm.
I think this will
That's
be a
true.
nice way to introduce the freedom elements, but still within that structure. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's very exciting. Yeah, it is very interesting. It's a lovely new style. Yes, we do love that engine. I'm very, very glad they haven't wasted it, I suppose, because it's been a while since we had the Link's Awakening kind of remake for the Switch. It's a few years old now, and to get another kind of game in that look and feel is, yeah, lovely. But yeah, so super exciting to see that it's performing well in terms of wish listing at least. Sales will be another matter, but it sounds like it's you know forecasting to do well at least in terms of popularity.
yeah. And
Mm.
keep in mind, I mean, there's very few games that are going to sell like Breath of the Wild has, but
Mm, mhm,
y- you know, even if this only moves like Link's Awakening numbers, which is why I think it's like maybe 7 million. I mean,
mhm.
that's still there's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
Prior to the Switch, that would be among the best-selling Zelda games. The Switch has just kind
Mm,
of changed everything. So,
yeah.
um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
just keep
it's
perspective.
yeah, I'm gonna be very interested to see how it does, especially 'cause, we're later in the Switch's life cycle, but that means we have a lot of Switches out in the wild. There's a lot of Switches. What are we up to now? 140 odd million or something?
And maybe more because doesn't this game launch alongside a new Switch Lite model? So,
Yes, it does. Oh, I actually really like that model. We didn't talk about that last week. It looks really nice. I'm just not interested in a Switch Lite, myself, and probably wouldn't invest in a new Switch at this point. Hence why I still have not got the OLED. But it does look really nice. It does actually look really nice. If it was I'd be tempted if it wasn't for the Switch 2 coming next year, to be honest. But yeah, no, that's okay. But there are other games that were mentioned last week because it was a huge direct. There were many, many games. I think it was 34 or so. But Mario and Luigi was another big one revealed, and that's sixth in this wish listing kind of um, list. Wish list,
Yeah.
which
I
looks
was
interesting.
talking with a friend about that because I couldn't
Hmm.
join you guys, but I was still talking about, the games. And that was
Mm-hmm.
that was an interesting surprise, to kick off the direct. It kind of showed me that, wow, okay, this isn't just going to be ports and updates. There's going to be some new stuff because I kind of thought that series died with Alpha Dream, and I thought it was just
Mm-hmm.
going to be like Paper Mario from
Mm-hmm.
here on out. So to see that and a brand new one, no less, and a striking visual style, and I think that's kind of cool. I don't know if it's day one for me, just because between Super Mario RPG at the end of last year and then Paper Mario recently, I'm a little
Mm.
toasted on Mario RPGs, but I'm sure it'll be a great game. So
Yeah, and maybe come when's it, November? Maybe you'll be ready for some more in the series. So maybe by then you'll feel different.
maybe,
Mm.
yeah,
And yeah, Metro Prime 4, of course, was another big one, and that was right at the end of the direct, and that's the 10th in this kind of wish list scenario. So people are, excuse me, responding well to that as well. And I think because Justin mentioned it last week, and he's obviously a huge fan, very excited, as was Kirk, but also Trev. You're how you feel about this one? You're pretty excited, I imagine.
yeah. I'm a Metroid fan. Pretty much every year in recent years that a Metroid game's come out, it's been in my top 10. Um,
Mm,
Returns on the 3DS, Dread on the Switch, and then the Metroid Prime sort of port that they did recently. And yeah, that's exciting because I didn't expect to see it, because when they said there wasn't going to be any Switch 2 news, I kind of in my mind had moved Metroid Prime 4 to the Switch successor. So
mm,
to see it at the end, at first I kind of blinked. I'm like, okay, is this Metroid Prime 2? Are they bringing that over like as a port? Like, but I quickly realized that it was new footage, and it
mhm.
looked great. And I'm like, wow, nice. Okay, it's moving along. So
Yeah. Yeah, finally. So fans were finally treated to some new footage, and a couple others that were also mentioned, which was Donkey Kong Country so Returns, is it? Gosh, I'm bad at remembering names of things. The Donkey Kong HD that's coming out, which is, due next year in January, and that is being wishlisted at number I don't know what number it was, but it was in the top 25. Same with Mario Party, Super Mario Party
mm,
Jamboree. Those are both mentioned. I think one was like 19th, one was 24th or something like that. So yeah, there's a handful of games that have caught fans and players' attention, and they're looking forward to, which is really really great to see, especially this late in the life cycle of the Switch, as we said. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that tidbit with you. Did you have any comments, Kirk, on that wish listing scenario?
I not I'm sort of surprised that Metroid Prime is only 10th. I think that's the
Mm,
only thing that struck me. The order of these games
hmm.
seems a little off, but
Yeah.
not in a bad way. I think it's great. I think I'm more excited about it because of Wisdom than I am about Metroid Prime 4.
Hmm.
But once I get and start, I mean, I haven't played a Metroid Prime game since 3's original release.
Right.
So it's been forever. Once I get
Yeah.
back into it, I'll be like, all right, yeah, okay. Now I understand why everybody was clamoring for this. I'd just forgotten.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess I agree with you there. I thought it'd be a little bit higher, but 10th is still good. Yeah, I'm not surprised by Echoes of Wisdom. I think that's just, different enough to be exciting. And yeah, can't wait to see what happens in September. So some more news from the week, and this is about one of the greats in Nintendo Land, right? Like Shigeru Miyamoto, who's honestly a classic. He's an icon, isn't he? He's been. I just want to talk about him because there was some news, a couple of pieces of news. Firstly, we didn't get to talk about the Mario movie because that's something he's working with. on the sequel. And he did mention recently, excuse me, that he's involved with the sequel. And we knew it was coming out in April 2026, but he recently, I think it was right before the direct last week, actually, he tweeted or whatever, said something about how it's also coming out in April 2026 in Japan. So they didn't have a release date for whatever reason. Now they do. But he also said he's working on it and it's going to be a fun movie. The original team is involved, that kind of thing. So just to get us a little bit excited, it's still, gosh, almost 2 years away. So it's a long time away. But I just love that he's so involved with it because he's kind of the father of Mario, right? Like he created Mario, the whole series. We can thank him for that. But it leads on to, and did you guys have any comments on the Mario movie? I suppose at this point, the sequel, I should say.
I just agree with you. It's like it's hard to get overly excited just because 2 years is
Mm,
a long,
it
long
is,
ways away.
yeah, it is a very long way
Makes me
away.
think of like back when I was getting into the MCU, and it's like, oh, Infinity War. This whole thing seems so far off, and it'll
Yeah.
eventually get here, and I'm sure it'll be great. But
Hmm. Yeah. That seems to be the way at the moment, isn't it? Like, you could say the same thing with Metroid Prime 4, I guess, that we've been waiting 7 years. Usually, we've been waiting a long time for the Switch 2. Some things come like Echoes of Wisdom we just found out about, and then in a couple of months it'll be with us. So it's really interesting the difference between some, I guess, announcements and releases. There's a huge time period in some cases, and I suppose Zelda tends to be a longer lead time for things like, I don't know, Tears of the Kingdom. Did we wait a couple of years for that one? I think. And,
yeah, but at least then you had things to tide you over. Like you had
mm,
Link's Awakening, you had Skyward Sword, you had uh the warrior style one. I can't
oh
Hyrule
yeah, Horror
Warriors,
Wars.
Age of
Yeah.
Calamity. So, like, what's to tide us over for the Mario movie? Are we gonna have Mario shorts, like we had Pikmin shorts or something?
Oh, maybe, maybe. Oh, don't get me started on Pikmin. I would love a Pikmin movie. But you know what? That's possible because, well, let's continue with Shigeru Miyamoto because he also recently addressed some of, I guess, there was a question about his age. Some fans or journalists were just asking about it. He's getting on. He's going to be 72 this year, so he's currently 71. He's been with Nintendo a long time, since 1977, which is before I believe you or I were even born, Trev. I don't know your birthday, Kirk.
I was around.
You were around, but you would have been quite young, I'm sure.
I
Um,
was old enough to see Star Wars in the movie theater that year.
oh,
So
wow. Oh, it did come out that year, didn't it? Yeah.
yes, it
Yep.
did.
That's cool. Yeah, but before Trev and I were born, so that's a very long time to be with one company. I love that dedication and commitment, which kind of goes with, I guess, Nintendo. I feel like, even was it last week we were talking about, or the week before, that they're very apologetic, they're very honorable. And I think that's part of it. It must be a good place to work, I assume. Anyway, I'm not going to speculate there. But yeah, so he's been there a long time. He's still fully involved with certain projects like Pikmin Bloom, for example, which is that mobile version of Pikmin. And that's why I was thinking if he's involved with that and he's also involved with movies, because I know he's got to have some creative input into the Zelda movie as well as the Mario movie, Pikmin movie? Could we see a Pikmin movie? That would be cool. We have the shorts, like you said, Trev. I love a Pikmin
Mm.
movie.
I'd prefer it over Pikmin Bloom, to be honest. I feel like that's sort of a waste of his talents.
Mm.
I hate to minimize it, but it's a mobile. It's not even really a game. It's a mobile app. I'd like to see,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if he is in a limited capacity or a lesser capacity now, I'd like to see him
Mm.
focus more on a proper console game. But well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And he mentioned that as well because he said that most of the practical development on new Nintendo games is relegated to the younger developers. But Shigeru Miyamoto, is not detached from the process either. So he still has some input, whether it's just, I don't know, maybe people come to him with ideas and he'll kind of veto them or kind of steer them on a path or whatever. He's a bit of a mentor. I'm imagining a bit of a mentor situation. Um, and, because they talk about the old guard where there's, the likes of Miyamoto who's getting on and probably, he'll retire at some point. He has said that he's not retiring anytime soon, which is really I guess, neat. But that was back in December that he said that. But he said, I consider Nintendo's generational handover to be progressing smoothly, right? So, yeah, they do have young and brilliant developers in house. And I guess I do love that at least these young, new, talented people get to work with the likes of Miyamoto and hopefully learn from them and continue that legacy. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think 72 doesn't really seem that old to me. I mean,
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's not that
not that
old.
I'm pushing that. I was around to see Star Wars, but I wasn't, working in 1977.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
see Gone with the Wind? Be honest.
I mean,
Honestly, I have never seen that movie, and I don't think I ever will.
oh wow.
Aw.
There you go.
Sorry. No sword fighting skeletons. Um, but so yeah, like when somebody at that age is saying that he's not retiring anytime soon, my initial thought is that, well, you should go out and enjoy yourself. But I imagine it is with his notoriety and his position in the company now that he's probably hopefully has plenty of free time and can
Mm,
enjoy as much as he can out of life at this point. He certainly deserves it.
yeah.
So that's the first thought, not the age. But I also I do like to hear that he's willing to turn over a lot of development and creativity to the younger group because your ideas do tend to get stale as we get older, and it's hard to still have those creative juices. And it's
Mm.
important to keep a lot coming from younger, newer developers who are bringing something new to the table. So the whole thing sounds good to me.
Yeah, I agree. It does sound good. And yeah, 72 is not super old. Like my dad's around that age actually. So I think of him when I think of Miyamoto in terms of age. And my dad's he's only retired pretty recently. And even now he still dabbles. He's a kind of a financial business person. So he still dabbles in that area and still, helps people out with different situations. So um, yeah, I think people like Miyamoto and probably that generation just love what they do so much that they don't don't want to stop doing it. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. He also does seem to be very young in spirit too. Whenever
He
he's
does.
doing a direct or on stage,
Mhm.
he still has a sense of joy about him. And
Yeah.
72 apparently isn't old enough to run for president in the United States. So, he's doing all right.
Oh man. I wasn't going to say it, but I was thinking that. I don't know if that's why age is maybe a question to bring up, but I don't know how
Mm.
much this means to you, Gemma, in Australia. But at the time of recording last night, we just had a presidential debate, and when your
Uh,
youngest guy is 78, that's I can understand why that gives people pause. But
yeah.
Miyamoto, it's all about responsibility, right? It's not like Miyamoto is in like a governing role or like a manual
Mm.
laborer where his body's breaking down.
Mhm.
He's you know probably more often than not in a consulting role, training in
Mhm.
these new generation of developers. So I think he should do it as long as he's able and as long as he has fun with it. And I would have to imagine Nintendo is a fun place to work because I look at the product they come out with.
Mm.
They're
Mhm.
not usually known associated with things like crunch or some of the industry ugly side that comes with hitting, deadlines and
Mhm.
holiday seasons or things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I do agree with all of that, and I love it, and I'm glad he's still there. I'm glad he's still contributing and that we get to still enjoy his work for as long as possible. So thank you. I've certainly always been a fan because I grew up with Mario and Zelda, which were his two kind of his creative outputs until, obviously he's done other things, but like Pikmin. But they were very early on in the 80s. So yeah, definitely appreciate all of that.
I think about too, like when we were kids, now obviously in the industry and writing about it, I know a lot more people, developers
Mm.
and people involved in the game process. But as a kid, how many developers could name companies, but how many people could we name individually? as a
Mm,
developer. I could probably name two people,
yeah.
Miyamoto and maybe Yu Suzuki from Sega, because he did,
Mm,
like Space Harrier and Outrun and Shenmue and games like that. But I didn't know the individuals who
mm.
were making the games except for Miyamoto, because yeah, his games were, what would they call back in the day? Killer apps or triple A or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he was basically a household name for kids like us, growing up. Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't have known anyone else except for him. So yeah,
Mm.
that's a really good point. Yeah, I love that. Yes. Well, thank you. That was a good little discussion on Miyamoto, all things Miyamoto. We love you, Miyamoto. Um, yeah. Well, let's move on to the next news item. And I thought this was very interesting because we do, like, lately we've talked a lot about rumors and, especially Switch 2 kind of stuff. And it all comes down to leaks, essentially. Because how are these rumors coming out? Either people are just making them up, right? Which is one thing. You can make up and say, I think it'll be this, or I expect it to be this, or I'd like it to be this. But if you actually say, my sources say, sneakily on the dark web, I don't know, this is happening. Like this is what we can see with the Switch 2. Nintendo's actually cracking down on leaks because I guess, it's not in their best interest to have something announced or, talked about before they're ready to announce it. So this was an interesting little story about a report that claimed a Google employee had accessed private videos. So Nintendo's, working very closely with their employees, their own employees, to make sure they understand how IT breaches work and make sure everything's kind of secure and locked down and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, I just wondered what your thoughts on that might be. I mean, we talk a lot, even at my own day job, we have a very tightly secure little IT network. We're very conscious of that sort of thing. I'm sure Nintendo is as well. But it must be frustrating, if you're working in this industry and you're working on something super cool and you can't wait to show the public, and then someone finds out early, and you're like, well, that's not cool. We want to talk about this in our own way, right? What do you guys think about that?
Well,
Deep breath.
you know, I I've never cared for leakers myself,
Hmm. Mm.
because I like to be surprised. But
Yeah.
even if you're the most impatient person and you want to know immediately,
Hmm.
you know, you got to ask yourself. It goes beyond the leak. What is it really? First of all, the person leaking it is either accessing material that they have no legal right to,
Hmm.
or they're breaking, some kind of confidential agreement, non-disclosure agreement.
Hmm.
So they're doing something wrong. And why are they doing it? It's ultimately it's an ego thing, right? They want the
Mm.
attention of
Mhm.
gamers, of news outlets. It's an ego boost. Oh, I get more followers. I'm an influencer, whatever. And
Mm.
I just think that's a unattractive quality,
Yeah.
generally speaking. So I've never cared for leakers for those reasons and more.
Mhm.
And it hurts people. I mean, just from a pure Nintendo point of view, it
Mhm.
was, when did Superstar Saga leak on the 3DS? That was back in 2017. We're
Mm.
still, to some extent, feeling the impact of that. Because prior to that, we'd get press codes early. We'd get physical copies early.
True.
Now, we'll get a press code maybe on launch night, maybe the day later. And I'm not knocking that, because
Mhm.
we're not entitled to that. I appreciate any support we get, but a lot of that stemmed from one leak.
Mm.
Never mind the leaks that we've forgotten about or we never knew about.
Yeah.
So it affects a lot of people. So if they're going to crack down on it, good for them. And yeah, that's all I get to say.
That's a really good point. Yes, it does. It affects everyone across the industry, really. Kirk, did you have anything to say or add to that?
I don't know if I could add to it because I think I completely agree with what Trevor
Mm.
said. I think the one thought I had too is that once these stories get leaked, the reason why they spread is because of us.
Mm,
And when I say us, I mean like gaming websites
yeah.
and in social media. So when we report on it and talk about it, um, then we're not as guilty as the leaker, but we're helping to spread that. So
Yeah. Mhm.
it's interesting to talk about uh, how the different things affect that the different components come into play. But yeah, I agree that it ruins the surprise. Like I want to be fully surprised when I see something, and along with leaks, a lot of the times you get just rumors. They aren't leaks; it's people guessing on things. But because they've
Mm,
come, oh, this source leaked this before, and they were accurate, then okay, now that I see this one, I'm expecting this game to come out, and then when it doesn't hit, now I'm disappointed. Um,
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
and
Mhm.
so that kind of throws me off too. So yeah, I would think we would all be better if none of this ever got out. It will continue to, and it's going to be a problem, and Nintendo can crack down, and some things are still going to get out. I don't
Mhm.
think it's possible in this day and age to keep everything that close to the vest. But yeah, if Nintendo is able to help curb that, then more power to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent points. Thank you both. I think I agree with everything that you said. Yeah, it's a huge part, I think, of the I want to say of the industry, but just what I mean is there's like you said, Kirk, there's always going to be probably like someone. There's always going to be someone somewhere who wants that attention, as Trev alluded to, and has the access. And then it's almost like I don't know what's going through their mind, but they probably are. I would feel really guilty personally. I don't like to be dishonest. You wonder if they're thinking in their head, should I, shouldn't I? And then whatever part of them that wins over that makes them do it, I guess that's why they go through with it. And then if they do get the attention that they're looking for, that's going to reinforce that they've done the right thing in their minds. Obviously not the right thing legally or morally, but to get if that's their goal is to get followers or to be an influencer, then yeah. But you think if it comes from an internal source, and I don't know, I think Nintendo, I imagine they're quite strict and they have their non-disclosures, etc. But if it's not even from Nintendo, if it's from a different, like Google, for example, who also would have their they would have to sign something, a policy or whatever when they join that they can't interfere with their users' data. If someone in Google does that, then that's untrustworthy, and that definitely shines a pretty poor light on Google, even if it's not Google itself as a company, but it's someone at Google who's done that or whatever company. But yeah, interesting.
I've always
So yeah.
been a Yahoo man myself.
Duck, duck,
Oh,
go.
yeah. Yeah. No one uses Bing?
Is
That's
Ask
my
Jeeves
oh,
still around?
I think so. I think so.
Northern Light.
Oh my goodness.
I
Yeah, so
definitely used to use
we could
Yahoo.
go
That
on.
was even when I was in high school and Google was kind of becoming a big thing back then in the 90s. And it was like, um, I would just refuse to use it just because I didn't want to be a sheep. I just wanted to use, so I kept using Yahoo until such time as, I don't know, Google became obviously the best or just ubiquitous, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a better word. I
Mm,
wouldn't put best in front of anything with
yeah.
Google.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Best at tracking you.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably true and apt. And can we trust them not to leak our data? Well, we'll see. I don't know. Not if they're leaking Nintendo stuff. I don't know what they're doing with my stuff. Anyway, just be wary, people. Be wary.
You better shore up
Um,
your IT team. Make sure there's no
yeah,
loose ends.
yeah. My IT team is me. So in terms of my home IT, yeah.
Wow.
Am I doing everything I could? It's like,
Where's Hayden?
I'll get him onto it. He can be an unpaid intern. Yeah. But Trev, you have a little bit of an update, an amiibo update. We recently talked about amiibo being around for 10 years. It was 10 years since they announced amiibo. And you have got a couple of new ones to share with us. What have you recently acquired and how?
I do. First of all, I apologize. I said next time I was on, I was going to total up my amiibo and let you know how many I had total.
Ah,
And
yep.
I forgot to do that. So stay tuned for
That's
that. But I do have two more. Um, one isn't super exciting because I alluded to it when I was in GameStop that I saw the Duck Hunt amiibo there and I almost grabbed that,
fun.
but I got
Mhm.
Rob the Robot instead. So I'm like, you know what? I want the Duck Hunt one anyway. So I grabbed it. Had a coupon, which is nice. And in fact, I'm looking at it right now. I like it because it's almost like two amiibo because it's got the dog and the
Yeah.
duck.
Yeah, I love that.
So, and the other one I got, we were away. We had a party for my in-laws. They had a 50th wedding anniversary.
Mhm.
And so we were up with friends and we went into a Goodwill and I saw a boxed Super Mario 30th anniversary amiibo. And I
Wow.
said, I got to have that. So I got it.
It's awesome. Was
It
it
shows you
so
my mindset because these are both like NES, type amiibo here.
Yeah, true, true. And it was boxed, the Mario one.
It
Still in
it
box, yeah?
was. Yeah, the box was slightly worse for wear, but of course it doesn't matter with me because as soon as I grab them, I rip them open anyway because
Yeah.
I want to admire them and uh, not to mention the shelf space I saved by not having them
Mm,
boxed. So, and I
yeah.
want to be able to use them in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The boxes and they do take up a lot of room, actually, you're right, they do. They're boxy. So, yeah. That's awesome. That's cool. I was looking at Amiibo just yesterday myself. I didn't buy any. This was online. I just got an email from Nintendo. They do I don't know if they do this in America. This is I think it's an Australia thing, or at least the email that I got was from Nintendo Australia to my for my Australian Switch account kind of thing. And it was the kind of wrap up of the month, like, we just mentioned two's out. What else has happened this month? The direct, etc. And they said they've restocked the Metroid amiibos on the online store in Australia. So of course I naturally went online and checked them out and I'm like, oh, I have two of the I think there's a handful. It wasn't the Dread ones, the combo one or whatever, but it was like Samus in her Metroid suit, Samus in her blue kind of suit, Zero suit, is that what it's called? And
Yeah.
the one where she's kind of in her Metroid suit, but she's like down on the ground kind of thing, like
Oh, like crouched.
yeah, crouch. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Posing in a crouch, which I don't have that one, so I'm like, ooh, I should
You
get
have the
that.
squishy one,
Squishy?
the squishy Metroid one that's like bursting out of the capsule.
No,
You have that one?
no, I
Oh,
don't. Do
that's the one
you
I
have that
want.
one? Oh yeah, yeah, that one
No,
is.
I
That would
feel
be
like if I did, I'd be like squeezing it all the time. I'd probably break it. It'd be like a stress ball. I'd just be like squeeze,
Mhm.
squeeze.
Yeah. So I was online, and of course, when I look online, the Nintendo online store, it's priced fine. It's like $21 in Australia, which is standard for Amiibo here. And but you get free shipping if you spend over a certain amount. So of course, it's like I'd be silly just to buy one and then pay for shipping. I really should buy like four and then get free shipping. So then that's my conundrum. I'm like, well, do I really want to spend $100? Because there's a few of those older ones I haven't got, for example, that were restocked and still available. So I thought about it, but I didn't put an order on. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that's where I'm at with Amiibo. Yeah. Kirk, I'm guessing no new Amiibo for you this week.
No, they
No.
haven't. They haven't released any new ones in my things. I did end up. We talked before, and I think I said that about how I never got the um, Pyra and Mithra amiibo
Oh yeah.
because they came and went so fast, and I finally broke down and bought those on eBay. Um,
Yeah.
for a month. And actually, I didn't pay a lot more than I would have in the store, considering it was a pack of two.
That's
So
good.
it was more expensive.
Mhm.
So I think I paid $10, $15 above what they would have cost me. So not a huge investment.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And they would have been boxed, I assume, as well.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they were bucks. They're out now. Like Trev, I get them out and I put them
Mhm.
on my shelf to display them. And of course, I got to use them. I mean, I didn't with them because I've already completed the game. But
Yeah.
amiibos serve
Yeah.
a purpose.
They do, exactly. Yeah. I don't wanna diverge too much, but I did have a a random dream about Amiibo last night, actually. It was a Zelda Amiibo. It was, I don't know why. I don't know why I was dreaming about because I didn't even know that you had 2 Amiibo to talk about this week, Trav, so this is really weird. Yeah, it was a
Hmm.
new a new Zelda amiibo. It was the little Deku seed guys that pop up and shoot at you. That was an amiibo in my dream. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
There you go. Yeah.
Were you thinking of that Lego set there?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Don't know.
Were
Don't
they
know what
actually shooting something at you?
Uh, no, but they looked really cool.
Okay.
They were big and yeah, there were 2 versions of it as well. Sorry, I know it's not people hate when you explain dreams, so I'm not gonna go into it, but yeah, it was a cool amiibo and I would like to see it. Yeah.
Let's try to interpret this, Kirk. I think Gemma's at a crossroads in her job.
Yeah.
She's like, I need more help in IT. I can't do it alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yes, if
Hey,
only
back
amiibo.
on topic, though, Gemma, I just want to say this Mario amiibo is surprisingly heavy compared to the
Oh,
Duck Hunt
really?
one, just
Yeah.
in terms of weight.
Mhm.
I was really impressed when I picked it up. It feels more like a Skylander to me.
Oh, that's
But
cool. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Duck
yeah,
Hunt one, that's a Smash Brothers amiibo, isn't it? That one?
yeah, it's got
Yeah.
the logo on the base, whereas the
Mhm.
Mario one looks like he's coming out of a pipe. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, I've got that one too. It is pretty hefty. Or I've got one of those 2. There's 2 versions, isn't there, I think?
that's right. There's two. This one is this looks more like the colors from SNES Mario, I guess, Mario World. It's
Ah,
the
that's
red and blue. It's
cool.
not the tan.
Yeah, that's not the one I have. I have the tan one. I have the NES one. Yeah, I'd love to get the Super
Uh,
Nintendo one. Very cool. Jealous.
I'd love to get the tan one. We should trade.
We should. We should. But then we'd be stuck still jealous of each other with the we'll trade every other month,
I
maybe.
was gonna say if we lived near each other, we could just yeah trade off every few weeks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Well, thank you for the Amiibo update. I always love Amiibo talk. So yeah, we'll see if I get the Metroid one, but definitely tempted. Let's move on to the games that we're playing this week, and we have a nice healthy list of games that we're playing. I've got a few on my list actually. Normally, I sort of only have 1 or 2, but they are pretty simple games. And I'll start with. I don't know if I should start with the best one or not, but this in the order that I've written them, this is the best one of my 3. Unfortunately, I kind of go downhill from there, but Fruit Mountain is a random puzzle game that I picked up, and you can probably guess why I would like a game that merges fruit together because I was a bit obsessed with the Suika game last year. And Fruit Mountain is a fruit merging game. But what I love about it is it's not just dropping fruit down a column like, typical these kinds of puzzle games. It's a bowl that you throw fruit into, and then if they touch each other, they merge. And you can spin the bowl, like you can rotate it, you can move your direction of your you know, field of throw, whatever you want to call it. You can move that up and down. So you've got kind of a trajectory that you can alter. So it's really neat. It's a really good spin on that concept. And it's really fun, it's really addictive, and you chase your high score basically, just like the Sudoku game. It's got online leaderboards. It's got, your daily, monthly, and all-time, I think, records, and you can see how you compete or compare with other players around the world. There's 2 modes. There's just your more kind of cozy mode, which is just keep throwing fruit until your fruit go out of the bowl. As soon as the fruit falls out of the bowl tips over, then that's game over. But there's also a timed mode where you only get 3 minutes to kind of just merge as much as you can in that time frame and get the highest score that you can in that period. So yeah, it's simple but fun, and the aesthetics are really cute. There's like a little bit of an anime quality to it. There's like an artist, like an anime character who's sort of standing by an easel and she's painting the fruit bowl, like you would if you were an artist. People paint fruit, right, in fruit bowls. So I like that little segue. It's not like there's a story, but it's like there's a little bit of something to it, a little bit of personality. Yeah, just the gameplay itself. The bowl is nice and big, the fruit are nice and big, you can see everything really clearly, everything works really well, the throwing mechanic, it's all just pretty seamless and smooth. So I really enjoyed that one. I've just written up my review, for checking, and it will be online probably by the time this podcast airs, so look forward to that. But Fruit Mountain is that one. Cute little game, little puzzle game. The next one is also a puzzle game. This one is called Cat Bites. And Kirk, you got this code, I think. I think I got it from you in the queue.
Yes.
And this is an interesting one. I love cats and I love kind of puzzle games, so I thought this was a really neat
But you're going
one.
to say you love
I,
pipes.
I love pipes. Yes, I love pipes.
My
Well,
two favorite things
yeah,
finally merged in one game.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, and I do in a Mario context. I do love pipes. So, um, yeah, it's not bad. I would say it's certainly the gameplay is fun, and I really like it. It's like there's about 40 puzzles, and each one has a series of squares with various kind of pipes, I guess. They look like lines, and this is I'll get to the aesthetics, but they just look like lines. Essentially, you just want to rotate these boxes with lines in them to make them form a pathway. It's almost like a network, really. It's like you need to connect the pipes. They turn from white to red, and then cats are happy, I suppose, is the premise. Um, the puzzles are pretty easy, at least at first. It kind of gets hard around level 17 or so. It's not very tricky. But I'm a little disappointed in the aesthetics because it doesn't look they don't look like pipes or cats to me. So I think they've missed that opportunity. It just looks pretty boring. Like the background is nice. There's a nice colorful background picture, which is just like a lounge room or something, or some sort of sitting room setting. And
What do
then
the
on
cats look like, Gemma?
just like little black blobs. I don't know. They don't look like cats.
Uh,
Couldn't even tell they were cats. I think they're shadows of cats. I don't know. And then when you connect all the pipes, it makes this weird noise. It does not a meow. It's not anything. And they kind of rotate like marbles. It's just weird. I don't get
hmm.
it. I don't know what it's trying to do, but it doesn't look cute to me.
Maybe they
It's what
figure the name Blob Lines is not a marketable name, so they
maybe
changed
not.
Blob Lines to cat pipes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so it's a shame because the puzzles themselves are actually fun, and I quite enjoyed doing them, even though they start off quite easy. But yeah, there were a couple of challenging ones that I actually spent, a good 10 minutes trying to figure out how do I get this last cat in inverted commas? How do I connect this last cat to these pipes? Yeah, I just think they could have done a little bit more with the aesthetics there. And there's only the one mode. And the other thing that really struck me is that, the title screen has two options, play or tutorial. I went to the tutorial and nothing happened. The screen kind of broke and it gave you these weird options where you could play with the music and stuff. And I'm like, where's the tutorial? And it was very odd. I tried it several times just in case it was me. It's not. The tutorial doesn't work. There's no tutorial that I could access. So
Oh,
something's missing there. It's not a hard game, but it would be nice to just step you through. This is the purpose of why we're maybe connecting pipes together. I don't know. Like, why are cats even in pipes? I don't even know. That doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and it's a bit of a disappointment that it's not 100% working.
I
Yeah. Sorry, Trev?
I just looked up the publisher. They got quite a
Mhm.
few cat games. I wonder if
They do.
there's some kind
They
of
do. They do. I saw that
like
too. Yeah.
theme.
Yeah,
Maybe you have to
maybe.
play an
Maybe.
earlier game, and
To
maybe it
get it.
sets up the pipes.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't,
Maybe.
The
don't
ca-
even attempt this. It's the third in the series. You'll just be too confused.
the
Yeah.
cat cinematic universe or game universe.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was a little bit disappointed. Like I said, the gameplay itself is fine and fun, but it just could have looked nicer. And yeah, that tutorial business is a bit weird. But anyway, I'll write up my review. I've started to write it up. I'll finish that off and publish that shortly. Yeah. Um it's a cheap game at least. But it's still $5. I would have thought maybe two or $3. I don't know. I don't know. Am I being harsh there? Yeah. Unfortunately, the third one is actually my least favorite, and I was really excited about this. Metal Slug Attack Reloaded, which was announced during the Nintendo Direct recently and shadow dropped, I think, straight after the Direct or that day. I was really looking forward to this because it's a tower defense game. I love tower defense. I love Metal Slug, and it looks great, and the characters are really neat. And have you ever played Battle Cats? Either of you, Battle Cats at all?
Nope.
Nope.
You mean
Well, it's
Thundercats?
no,
No, I haven't played it.
no. Where is Thundercats though? They need to rejuvenate that one. Um, this is exactly like Battle Cats. Exactly like Battle Cats. So there's two. it's the type of tower defense game where you have a left and a right side, and there's a base at each end. You're on the left. You spawn, people or whatever, and they walk from left to right until they get to the enemy base, and they attack enemies along the way as well. And the enemy is doing the same thing. And the enemy is a computer, and the computer controlled characters are being spawned, and they attack you, and they attack your base. And essentially, the goal is to deplete the base's health first. So I love that. I love that kind of setup. I love the concept. And the first few levels were really kind of fun and interesting. And then suddenly it got really, really hard, like crazy hard. And it's so frustrating. And I kind of hate it. It's just like, what is going on? I
Aw.
cannot. Yeah, I did a bit of digging, and apparently this is a mobile game, or maybe it's a I don't know, it's come from somewhere else, and it had microtransactions, and they wanted you to pay for upgrades to get through these tough levels, and you can't do that on the
Ah.
Switch. So there's no microtransactions. You can level up your characters, and I've done that. I've leveled up my characters. You can unlock new characters, but they're random, so you can't really choose. There's a lot of characters, I will say. There's heaps of characters, but you need to get points to unlock your characters. And then I'm stuck at this level. I don't know. I can't really get any more points. I don't know what to do. So it's super frustrating, and it's really disappointing. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that. It just let me down big time, sadly.
You
Mm.
should have started with that game and
I
saved the
know,
best for last.
I should have. I'll just recap. Fruit Mountain is really good. So, yeah. Yeah, a bit disappointing, but maybe Trev, so maybe Kirk, you're next. Maybe you have something more positive to say about what you're playing.
Boy, I do, because I have two games that I absolutely love.
Oh, nice. Let's talk about
And
those.
one of them is, you know what, I'm going to start with the second game first because I'm going to talk less about that. I'll go into more detail on that one next week.
Sure.
That is, I've been playing The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak, which just came out today.
Nice.
I was hoping to have the review, but the other game I got kind of interfered with my review schedule, so it'll be ready, I think, by the end of the weekend. But this is a new game in the Legend of Heroes series, which goes way back and has so many games. The most recent ones, I think I mentioned when we were talking about the demo for this game a few episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
This one is kind of tied into the Trails of Cold Steel series, by which it mentions some things that happen in those games. It talks about some places, and a couple characters pop up here and there. But this is a completely new game with new characters, new setting, new story,
Cool.
and new dynamics. I talked a bit about one of them being that in the previous Legend of Heroes games, all the combat was turn based, and in this one, it takes more of a how do you say? Is it East Weiss? You guys know what I'm talking about?
How do you
The
spell it?
YS.
Why, yes, that's
Oh,
always how I say it, but I think it is. I think it is. What was the first one you said? I think
I
it's
thought
that one.
East.
East. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
in my head it's East. Yeah.
Yeah, the combat's more like that at first, because as you're running around in the environments, and you see the enemies, if you get up close to them, you can just attack them. In the previous games, you would attack, and that would give you like a little bit of a bonus if you kind of snuck up on them for that. But then you went right into the turn-based battle. Here, you continue to fight them in real time.
Mm.
Um, your character will do the most of the combat. The other two kind of hang back. Depending on what you do with the AI, you can kind of control how they're going to approach this. But it really speeds up the game because now you're just happy fighting everybody. Previously, after you fight enough of these people when you're exploring the map, you kind of just start to avoid them. Like, I'm leveled up enough. I don't want to get into another turn-based battle that's going to slow me down. So you can just fight them in real time. But at any point, or I shouldn't say at any point, once you build up enough on, I can't remember what the gauge is called, but then you can enter into turn-based combat. So if they're winning, or if there are other things that you just prefer the turn-based combat, then you can enter into that and then go into the more traditional Legend of Heroes style of gameplay. So it's fun, and it keeps things moving, and I thought that was great. I mentioned before when we were talking about the demo that you can't do this with boss battles. Boss battles are always
Mm-hmm.
traditional turn-based combat, but as you're running around through the overworld, you can keep things moving along that way.
What was your preference? Did you choose turn-based occasionally
No,
or no?
no, even though I prefer turn-based combat, but a lot of the grinding that you do, I don't think it's necessary. It's just faster
Mm.
to
Mhm.
just wail on them, from outside. And it's
Yeah.
not that complex either. Like you can attack and you can sort of jump out of the way. If you time your jump properly, then you can kind of like stun them, and you can go in and get more attacks in. So there's a little bit to do, but for the most part you don't really need to think about it. You could just hack away until they're gone,
Mhm.
because after every battle all your health is replenished, so you just need to make it through that fight, and then you don't have to worry about having to use health items or anything like that.
Oh, cool.
And it's got a lot of other change ups too. People who are familiar with the Legend of Heroes games will find themselves with a new kind of orbiment system. That's what you did before to determine what kind of skills you were going to be able to use, or how are you going to level up your characters or your weapons. There's a lot more freedom to that now. It's easier to swap in and out based on who you're fighting. So you don't have to think about it as much. Like before, it was you had to be very meticulous to make sure that you were doing everything, the way you want it to be. And now you can just like, that didn't work. I'm going to put this in and keep moving. And the one thing I was concerned about was that after playing Trails of Cold Steel 3 and 4 and the one that came out after that, um, I thought I was going to miss some of the characters. And whereas the new characters are just as distinctive and a lot of fun to play with. So I'm greatly pleased with the whole thing. Next week, like I said, I'll go into more detail about some of the plot elements and such. But it's a great game, and if you like, I think I mentioned during the demo, if you were putting off getting a Legend of Heroes games, because there's so much lore and so much story, and that still carries through. By the way, there are segments where you're going to be just watching characters talk for 10-15 minutes at a time.
Wow.
But if you're into that, then this is a great game to do it, and it's
Mm.
all very in depth and complicated and fun to dig into. But
Awesome.
since we're kind of starting new, as opposed to starting at Trails of Cold Steel 3, which was the first game they brought to the Switch, now you're not behind. You don't have to worry about not getting anything. You can get in and play and feel like you're coming in from the start.
Nice. Awesome. That sounds really good. What else are you playing?
The other game I'm playing is Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance.
Cool.
And I'm deep enough into this game now that I could say I greatly prefer it over the original release.
Well, that's good.
And I make it sound like the original game wasn't good. I hated the first 15 hours of Shin Megami Tensei 5 when it was originally released. Um, and I think we've talked about this before too.
Mm.
But first of all, they gave you no characters to care about at all. Like we meet some kids at school, and then suddenly there's an apocalypse, and now the one guy's alone, and he's running around through the wasteland, and that's your first 15 hours. Like no incentive, hardly any character interaction. You don't know anyone from Adam. So if you're really into the gameplay, that's fine. But the problem they had with the gameplay is that in order to save your game, you had to make it to a leyline font, I believe is how it's called or pronounced.
Mm.
And they were kind of far and few in between. So you could be playing and say you are 45 minutes along and you haven't saved your game, and you finally recruit a demon, because demon recruiting is one of the main components of the game. You finally get a demon that you wanted, and before you're able to do anything, you run into another person and they one shot kill you and you're done. You've lost 45 minutes of progress. You lost
Mm.
that demon that you were trying to get forever, and there was no way around it other than every time you did something good, if you don't know where the next leyline font is, you have to backtrack all the way back to the last one in order to save the game.
Oh, wow.
In this game, not only did they make it so you could save anywhere at any time, so right before any big battle, right before any complicated jump that you want to do just to see if you can reach a highway or something,
Yeah.
right after you get a demon, you can save your game so you don't have to keep going backwards And that makes the beginning of the game, when we're not really into the story, so much more interesting because you can explore without the constant fear that you're going to lose everything and have to start over.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they've created like these little trails. I don't know what they're called, but you can unlock these sort of like warp points where even if you're not saving your game, but there's a really complicated area that's hard to get to, a lot of them now have a warp thing where once you go there once, you can warp back to where you were before. You're kind of like riding these rails, sort of like surfing on a. There was like a Zelda game where you could do that, wasn't it? You kind of like hop on a line and sort of like zip along on it.
Uh,
Maybe I'm thinking of those spinny things along the walls.
yeah,
Whipstop
maybe.
even had that. You know what I'm
I'm just
talking about?
thinking of the mine carts in Zelda. I don't know if
Wait,
that's
you
what
talk
you're
about that thing in Twilight Princess that you ride along like the wall, like the
Yeah.
tricks?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
except
yeah.
you're not riding along walls. It kind of like creates this sort of like hanging rail line. So I guess it is like the mine carts, and you're sort of surfing along it. But anyway, so you can more after you unlock those, you can use them at any time, and then you can like very easily zip from one point to the other without having to run all the way across the wasteland again to get to where you need to be.
Cool. That makes
So
a
yeah,
huge difference.
yes, it does. It makes a gigantic difference. And they've also now you when you start the game, you can play one of two ways. You can play the original story, or you can unlock this character at the very beginning, and it says, "All right, well, that's going to mess up everything, but let's see how you fix it." And you basically get a different story because now you've got someone else with different methods for the storyline working alongside you. So you're not alone. You have another character. There's more character interaction. And then when you get back and finally meet your friends again, there's kind of like an awkward dynamic between a couple of them. So the story is much more interesting. So if anyone is getting the game and playing it, I do recommend you play the new version first. I don't know if it would then be worth it to go back and play the other because you'll be playing the lesser version. But if
Mhm.
you're a completist and you just love the idea of fighting and collecting these demons that you have to kind of coerce into joining you and then fusing into new demons that you take into combat, there's an awful lot to do if you're really into the gameplay. But for story wise, definitely go with the vengeance line, and definitely try it again if you played the first game and kind of like got kind of tuckered out there in the
Yeah.
wasteland.
Is it easy to know which is the vengeance stream from the beginning or
Yeah,
yeah.
at the beginning, like I said, it kind of presents this character, and you can either reach out to invite that character to join you or not. If you invite the character to join you, you're on the new story. If you
Oh,
don't,
okay.
you're playing the original.
Cool. Wow. I'm glad it's made such a huge difference to the original. It sounds,
Yep.
yeah, a lot better.
And
So
I
yeah.
looked back. I gave the original a 7.5 because even though I hated the beginning of it so much, once it started moving along, it was a good game, and the gameplay's fantastic. It's just a really good setup they have for the what they call the press turn system in combat. And there are so many, like over 200 of these demons that you can collect and fuse and take into battle with you. It gives you an awful lot to do. So the game is
Mm.
very engaging once you're over that initial hump,
Yeah.
which kind of resurfaces throughout, obviously. But it was a good game before, and now it's a great game.
Wow, it'll be interesting to see what you score this new one then. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that the final review when you're
It's
done.
halfway done. It should be posted possibly by the time this episode airs. So
Ooh. Cool.
check out Pure Nintendo.
Yeah. Yeah. Check it out online. Thank you, Kirk. That's
Yep.
brilliant. Trev, lucky last. What are you playing at the moment? Something pretty exciting, I think.
Yeah, so I'm playing a game that I first played on the GameCube, and it's Beyond Good and Evil. It's the 20th anniversary edition, and
Cool.
this is a great game. It was one of my favorite games on GameCube. I still have it, and I feel like the only reason maybe I won't say I've forgotten about it because it's always stuck in my mind, but as Nintendo players, we kind of tend to remember a lot of those first party games more. And the
Mm.
GameCube had a lot of great first party games, but even though its third party support was less, it had some great third party games. And Beyond Good and Evil was one of the best, if not the best, in my honest opinion. So I was excited to pick this up, and I'll have to touch base with Justin to see. I think he's playing it too, so I'd be curious to see if he played the original and what he thinks of this. But long story short, if you haven't played it, it's a game that has some Zelda elements to it in terms of some of the like level layout and combat and stuff, but it also has a real emphasis on story. It's sort of a well, I guess it's sort of like a classic sci-fi tale in a way. There's like political undertones, and there's one faction doing this, one faction doing that. Kirk would probably like it, but you have to kind of draw a line in the sand at a certain point and be like, what do I believe? Where am I siding? And it's interesting throughout as you're like running around the city or on your boat. There's a lot of like background chatter. You'll hear like resonance milling about just talking, or you hear things on the radio or on the TV, which gives it a lot of atmosphere and color. But you play as Jade and you kind of progress through kind of Zelda-esque type areas. And what's interesting too is a big mechanic is taking pictures. So you take pictures and you get paid for them, and that's how you buy, health for yourself or for your ship or for your partner character and things like that. So it's thrilling, especially when you're fighting bosses. It's like I'm trying to snap a picture and not get like killed at the same time. Um, but it's just great, and an atmosphere and characters and like I said, I think if you like classic Zelda, you'd like this. I think if you don't, you might still like this just because it's more of a mature take in a lot of ways. Although, interestingly, I was checking because we were joking a few weeks back about how the Tomb Raider games were like rated mature, even though they were first teen.
Yeah.
It sort of flipped here. This was a teen game, and now it's rated E10. So I don't know
Yeah.
what changed, but um, yeah, I'm having a heck of a lot of fun with this. I'm playing it with Jen, who never played it, but
Mm.
it's intuitive because she picked it right up. She's actually better than me, probably in certain respects.
Mm.
Um,
Is there any
yeah,
cooking to be done, like in Zelda? Any dubious food?
uh, n- no, there's some dubious sights, but not specifically food.
Yeah.
Uh, what's interesting as a 20th anniversary edition, I don't actually, and it's been a while since I played it on a cube, but I don't think it necessarily is hugely better looking. Like it just seems like it's a higher resolution type thing. Like I still see a
Mm.
little bit of stutter here or there, which doesn't bother me, but so I have to kind of balance how important is it to me that this game be updated versus that the game is just great and I would say timeless, because usually when I replay games, uh, games will either show their age, not be as fun, or they'll hold up and still be fun. But it's very rare that I play a game 20 years later. I'm like, I think that I might like this even better than when I first played it. And that's how I'm feeling thus far.
Hmm.
So,
Well, it's very positive. Yeah. And it seems like it's a decent
mm,
price. It's about $20 US on the eShop, 19.99.
yeah, that's quite fair for a port, because then like you look at Nintendo, they tend to keep a premium value on their games, even if they're
Mm.
just
They do. They do.
HD versions like Donkey Kong we were talking about earlier. That's just an
Yeah.
HD update and it's $60. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Looks like it has a
mhm.
few improvements. It says improved graphics, so maybe that's why it's not completely redone, right? Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess certain character models, I guess, look a little better. I was joking that I'd have to boot up the GameCube edition and
Yeah.
like kind of compare specific
Mm.
scenes. Like I've already been snapping photos Not just in game photos, but like through the Switch, so I can look back at
Yeah.
screenshot stills and be like, okay, the lighting here's a little different, or there's a little more
Yeah.
detail here. But like the textures still kind of have that sort of muddy-ish look that that generation had.
Hmm.
There was a cutscene. It was still a little jittery, but I just didn't care. And that's what's tricky if you're trying to review a game. It's like, how much value do I weigh on that?
Hmm.
Because ultimately, the big thing is if you're having fun.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's it. And it has autosave now, which must not have been around originally if they've mentioned it. So a bit like
Does it? I don't
Adventures.
know. I've still been saving the old fashioned way, maybe just out of muscle memory.
I don't know. It says new quality of life features, including autosave, cross save, and cutscene skip. So if you
I suppose
sort of,
you're right though, because when we did die, I didn't go back to my save. I did pick up right. Yeah.
hmm,
I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't even really it didn't register on me, but you're right.
yeah,
That is
there you
nice.
go.
Especially coming off Paper Mario, where I had to,
Mm.
track down the save spot.
Yeah, yeah. I do wish they had the ability to save anytime in Paper Mario or autosave.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we
And let's
just heard
not
Kirk.
That's
I was
true.
gonna say we just heard Kirk talking about the lack of saves and what it
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Shin Megami Tensei 5 could use autosave too, because there are times where I do die and I think, wait a minute, how long has it been since I've saved? Did I forget
Mm,
to? And then I still have to go back. But also, let's not negate the importance of the cutscene skip,
yeah.
because there
Yeah.
are many games I've played where, let's say, you do have to replay something and then you got to watch a cutscene again and you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
skip it. There are few things more annoying than having to sit through
Yeah.
something like that twice when you felt like you shouldn't have died in the first place.
Hmm.
That's a
That is
good
true.
point.
It's a very good point. Yes. Yeah. Little things like that that we can
Yeah.
take
So there
for
are
granted.
improvements. I mean, supposedly the music's been redone, but I feel like the tracks I remember sound like I remembered them. But
Mm.
um, again, we remember things sometimes with rose-colored glasses, or
Mm.
I guess in this case, rose-colored hearing aids. I don't know how it works with music,
Headphones?
but yeah, headphones. There we go.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said hearing.
Hearing aids.
You can tell I feel old.
Yeah. Get up on the podium, get into the debates.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
because I'm wearing earbuds today. That's why I'm wearing
Yeah.
earbuds.
That's it. Oh, well, that's great. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It must be nice to revisit something that you've previously enjoyed. Just like Paper Mario for me, I enjoyed that in the past. That's about similar age, actually, I suppose, because they're around the same
Yeah,
time. Yeah,
they
yeah.
were. Just great atmosphere, great vocal work. Um, just yeah. I mean, I'm gonna go on when I get my review up,
Mm.
but
Yeah, it looks nice. I mean, you said the visuals look a bit muddy, but it looks decent, I think, from the screenshots at least. But how long do you think the game is in terms of hours?
that is a fair question. I'll have to get back to you because I
Mm.
feel like we've already gotten off the beaten path a little bit.
Yeah.
Because one of the nice things is you don't have to just stay on mission. Like
Mhm.
we were just exploring the city trying to buy upgrades,
Mhm.
or look for critters we could photograph, or look for little caves kind of tucked away, or just see how far can we go on the water? Can we go here? Can we go there? And that's
Mm.
part of the fun, especially since a huge chunk of this game I don't remember. And again, for Jen, it's brand new. So I'm like, yeah, let's
Oh.
just run around before we actually get back on mission. So, which
Yeah.
is sort of the same dilemma I had with Paper Mario. It's a little bit different
Mhm.
here, but
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, a
yeah,
lot of side
I can't
quests.
change who I am. I'm too old.
Don't even bother trying. Awesome. Well, it sounds like a handful of good games there. Not to forget about mine. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are enjoying
What was it? Line blobs, or I already forgot. Oh, cat pipes. Cat
cat
pipes.
vibes. Cat vibes. Yeah, cat vibes. Yes. Anyway, thank you. I guess anything else you would like to say or revisit before we close off the show for the week? No more debate kind of anecdotes? I have to
Nope.
admit, I did not know. I know Joe Biden's quite old. I don't know how old he is, but if you're saying the youngest is 78, I'm guessing Donald Trump is younger than Biden, which means he's
The
70.
Biden's 81, I think,
Oh,
and
wow.
Trump is 78.
Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know he was that old, honestly. I knew Biden was in his 80s. I thought he was in his 80s, but yeah. Because we hear about it. We hear like, what do they say? I don't know. Old Joe Biden, and he mumbles and says
Yeah,
funny things
I'm
sometimes.
sure, like the rest of the world, you're laughing at us,
Aw. We're
but I was
laughing with
having so
you.
much fun talking about my games. I don't want to be a downer now about the state of our country, so we
Yeah.
better wrap it up.
Okay.
Jemma, do you remember The Simpsons where Abe Simpson was yelling at that guy because he paid him to paint his chicken coop?
Yes. Yes, I
And
do.
that's what it was. That's what it's like watching Trump and Biden yell at each other. It's like Abe and Chester Lampwick, was that his name? Watching
Yeah,
them yell
just
at each other. Pay my
yeah.
chicken coop. Make me.
Yeah, he paid him in something, apples or I don't know. He paid him in some sort of food that Chester didn't like, didn't he?
It was like corn muffins or something.
Yeah, corn
A plate of
muffins.
corn muffins.
He didn't like them, so he didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. See, we need Justin here to verify this. Fact check this.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining me this week. I think it was a pretty all-round kind of discussion. Um, thank you, listeners, for joining us as well. We hope you found something useful in there, not the debate stuff. If you'd like to support us, we are on patreon.com/pure Nintendo. We're putting together our next issue of our physical magazine that we'd love to get into your hands. So join us over there on Patreon and get yourself a copy. We are also on social media, so please follow us at Twitter/X, Blue Sky, and Mastodon. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on the show. So please leave us a thumbs up on YouTube or rate us on the podcasting channels, however you're listening to us. Thank you for joining us, and until next week, game on, everybody. Bye.
See ya.